Well, hello, everyone. So good to be here, sharing the stage with so many incredible presenters already, and there's still so much more to come. But yeah, my name is Melissa Sweet, and I am a product designer at Strava. So I know Cindy actually just did this in the earlier talk, but please indulge me. Is anyone here familiar with Strava, maybe uses it or has a friend who uses it? Raise your hand. Holy cow. Okay, I think my heart rate just shot up. No pressure. Great, glad to hear it. For those of you who might not be as familiar though, like what is Strava and what are we about? So Strava is the social network for athletes, and we're so much more than that though as well. We are an app and website that helps athletes all over the world provide tracking, analysis, and data all about their workouts. So all efforts have a place here too. It doesn't matter if it's an ultra marathon or just a walk around the block with the dog. We're a social platform where friends can get together and compare notes, performances, egg each other on, or just simply unite for a common habit or common goal. And we support over 30 types of sports as well, including cycling, running, swimming, hiking, kayaking, snowshoeing, you name it, we probably have it. And our mission is to build community, inspire athletes, and unlock potential. And we seek to unlock that potential not only within the athletes that we serve, but also internally within ourselves as well. And so we are always striving to provide the best experiences, and we do that by helping to unlock creativity internally, and which is the thing that I want to highlight today, our creative process, which is our internal hackathon called Jams. So I'm so thrilled that internal hackathons have come up in so many conversations already today, because I'm going to be detailing from start to finish how we began this process and how it's grown and evolved over time as we've grown as a company. So yeah, my talk, Fueling Innovation at Strava. So during this talk, I'll be speaking about Strava Jams and how they've helped us push the boundaries of creativity internally. And I'll be breaking this down into 3 major sections as well. First off, their current format, history of the company and how we began the process. Next up, a few examples of past jams that have been created. And lastly, what we've learned over the years in implementing this process. So let's start with that first section. So jams, as they currently stand today, are a quarterly 3-day sprint where all employees stop work on any roadmap work that they're doing, and they're free to work on a project of their choosing. So this really gives us an opportunity to explore and create ideas that interest us and to work collaboratively with coworkers outside of our established teams and disciplines, while simultaneously giving us time to rapidly iterate on products, experiences, and new processes. It also gives us the opportunity to work across roles. So as an example, the head of IT can give copywriting a go, or an engineer can create and finish a project from a designer's perspective. It really gives everyone the chance to, again, expand their boundaries, push everything to the limit, and really push everyone outside of their comfort zones. And it empowers everyone, including those outside of our standard product vertical teams, to give this a go and try something new. And stated in another way, jams provide an opportunity to think about product design without the constraints and parameters of a formal project brief. At Strava, the traditional project roadmap has been defined by teams working to create an idea that is closely vetted for ROI and scalability, and that is a ton of keywords, I'm sorry. So just to visually put this together and show you, because I am a visual person as a product designer, I need to see this laid out. We purposefully had to structure jams to be vastly different from our normal road mapping structure. And so this is overly simplified. I cannot state this enough, but just a bare bones look at design process. Of course, there's parallel work happening simultaneously. There's more loops in here than what's actually stated. But at a very bare bones, basic, stripped down level, this is what our development and product design process looks like. So now that we've seen that, let's take a look at what our jams process looks like. So this series of amorphous scribbles floating in space is probably the best representation I could find of what that jams process looks like. And it's not meant to be straight-laced. It's not meant to be formal in any way. It's supposed to be vastly different from our normal project flow. So thus, the scribble. Awesome. So it all kicks off with a Jams kickoff pitch session. So at the beginning of the 3 days, there's a very loose structure in place, and it starts with that kickoff pitch session. So participants can present their idea and solicit any help or feedback from anyone in the audience, and this is presented to the entire company. So for example, if you're working on a project and you need some engineering help to really see it through to the finish line, you can present it in this forum, and then people can volunteer to help you on your project for a day, maybe the entirety of Jams. It's really a collaborative, again, experience for everyone. So after you pitch your project, you begin furiously working, typing away as fast as you can in those 3 days, or 2.5 really, because at the end of that last day, it's presented in front of the entire company. So everyone gathers together again. There's food, beer, wine. Everyone just has a great time, just watches what everyone's been able to put together in such a short amount of time. But you don't have to sit there grinding away at a project, and the outcome doesn't have to be in a deliverable format. It could consist of learning a new skill, researching a new tool, or leaving the office altogether and going to a conference or workshop like we all are here today. So it comes down to whatever you are excited to work on. So you don't have to follow this prescriptive format. And speaking of which, you don't even have to attend the kickoff or present the kickoff. You do have to attend. That's sort of nice if you attend, show support. But you don't have to present. If you already know what you want to do and you feel empowered enough to be able to see it through to fruition, that's fine. You don't have to present. You don't even have to present your project at the end if you don't want to. It's all about like personal betterment, improving your skills, learning something new, trying something outside of your comfort zone. So this is not meant to be prescriptive. It's really optional and whatever suits you and your project. But the idea of hackathons is not a new concept, clearly, as we've seen from the talks today. Google, Microsoft, Facebook, larger companies already have a process similar to this. But again, these are all massive companies. How do smaller companies successfully incorporate this? So small groups, startups, things like that. So before I dive into that, let's take a look at the history of Jams at Strava. So currently, we're a medium-sized company of around 150 people with our headquarters based in San Francisco, California. And although this is us now, we started Jams in 2011 with 10 people on our staff. So it could be hard to understand, like, how do you even kick this off with 10 people on your staff? How can you afford to set that time aside to dedicate time to whatever you want to work on? How does that work? So way back when, 2011, these were the days before voting. These were the days before meetings. And by voting, I mean voting for your favorite Jam project. It was all about just working on projects you were interested in. And in these days, Jams were called Innovation Days. So again, back in 2011, we shipped a new update to the app every 2 weeks. And on that Friday of the shipping app going out, we allowed ourselves to spend a half day or full day just working on a project that we were interested in. And the sunk cost of time was so minimal that it really wasn't a big deal and it was easy to justify. Plus the morale boost of allowing ourselves to work on something like this was well worth it. And this time was sacred too. No meetings were allowed. It was just you and whatever you were interested in working on. So if there was something that was grinding your gears and you wanted to fix a feature or update it, you had the freedom to do so. And if you saw support tickets rolling in from athletes advocating for a new feature, again, you had the time to be able to dedicate to prototyping, testing something out. And after about 10 sessions with this format of having Innovation Days, every other week or so, it became clear that one day or half day was nowhere near enough time to get a semi-finished product out the door. So we decided to change things up. This brings us to our current format of Jams happening once every quarter, 3 days, and this really helped us expand the ability to be able to bring these products across the finish line, these experiences, these new learnings. And then to help celebrate this V2 release of Innovation Days, we changed the name to Strava Jams, which is what it is today. We also later on introduced the End of Jams presentation format, along with the ability to vote for your favorite project. So if your project got the most votes, you won the attention and admiration of your peers, as well as supreme bragging rights, always important. But along with that, if the project was a perfect storm of product fit, meeting user needs, and craftsmanship, then maybe, just maybe, it had the potential of being in the sweet spot to be included in the final shipped product. So with all of that together, with all the changes that occurred over the years, enthusiasm around Jams reached a fever pitch. So again, with all those changes, it's grown to be a cultural touchstone within our company at Strava. It's referenced in our company blog posts, recruiting materials, and every new user, every new employee onboarding. We encourage everyone to be conscientious of anything within their workflow that seems like there might be some friction, might be something that can be improved or changed. So that way when Jams rolls around at the end of the corner, everyone's ready to hit the ground running and start a new project. So we took a look at the current format and history. So now let's dive into the Jams projects, which is one of my favorite parts of this talk. I'm so excited. We've had the ability to ship so many great features and experiences just internally that have never seen the light of day. And I'm excited to, for the first time, be able to share some of these with you. So first off, photos. So if any of you have familiarity with the product, and I know there's some of you out there, photos are a big part of every activity that each of our athletes upload. You would not see any photos in our platform if it were not for Jams. So many Jams have been dedicated to photos, uploading photos, sharing photos, having photos on our profile. At the far left, we have our feed with an athlete activity photo, athlete profile, and then actual activities here. All of these implementations were inspired by or brought to the product because of Jams. And also pinch to zoom, which seems like a pretty standard feature in apps these days. Maybe Instagram has something to do with that, I don't know. But that was completed by iOS engineers and Android engineers to be a Jam and is now in the product. Flyby. So Flyby is a map and timeline tool to see who is outside and recording an activity around the same time or location as you. But it has other use cases as well. And at Strava, we are fortunate enough to have several professional athletes using our platform, especially while participating in major races, such as the Tour de France. So in this feature, this example really shines because in major races, such as the Paris-Roubaix bike race seen here, we can see how professional athletes performed in real time and see how they did over ascents, descents. It's just really incredible to see. Next up, Suffer Score. Suffer Score analyzes the athlete's heart rate data through a ride or a run activity. And by comparing that activity's heart rate with the user's actual maximum heart rate, we can calculate a rough value to see how hard they worked in this activity. And it's a fun way of seeing how absolutely miserable you were on a long hike or a long bike ride. And these are just a few key examples of some features within our product that have shipped because of Jams. But not everything has to be an entirely standalone feature, but they can be extremely technical. So here's a Jam that just happened in our last quarter's event that recently updated our grade adjusted pace, or GAP for short. So the background here is that GAP takes a look at a runner's pace when going up or downhill and adjusts the metrics to show and display as if they were running on a flat surface. And so we can compare that pace over time regardless of uphill and downhill. It makes it really easy to see that performance over time. So we can see what this looks like now without GAP enabled and with. So you can see that pace pretty much flatlines, which shows that it's consistent regardless of that insane terrain up and down. So this Jam, now diving into it, looks at our current GAP model and saw that it was particularly inaccurate when it came to downhill, calculating that downhill pace. So in this new model that was created in Jams, he was able to study that result and make it more consistent with the rest of the calculations. And this also has been shipped in the project, or in the product since then. Kudo bombs. So kudos are like our equivalent of the thumbs up on Facebook. But currently, this is only available on iOS. But by looking at all participants in a group activity and shaking your phone, you can easily give kudos to all of your friends or everyone on the activity. Love that GIF, oh my God. But not all projects have to be technical. Not all projects have to be a shippable feature. And not all projects are made with the end goal of being included in the product. Several are made just for fun and just for us internally, and they never end up seeing the light of day because they're not intended to. For example, here's 2 bike trainer jams that were done, gosh, maybe 4 years ago or so. And depending on how fast or slow you pedaled, different interactions would occur. So for one of them, there was a game of Flappy Bird enabled. So the faster you pedaled, the higher up on the screen you went. And on another one, it would play music depending on what cadence you were meeting as you pedaled on the bike. Door Jam is another really popular one at Strava. It solved an issue around a door that, unlike all the rest of the doors, door to our office, they swung out for some reason, thereby knocking food, laptops, and faces to the floor. So they created the system of dots to let people know the trajectory of the door, thereby saving people's pride and their laptops. Crucial. Pretty ingenious. So I've been able to go through the history, the process, and some of the hallmark jams that have been made, but I also want to talk about the challenges that we've faced over the years, and this would not be a jam presentation without talking about these challenges. And with the company growing at a steady pace, going from 10 employees now to 150 around the world, and enthusiasm around jams reaching new highs, there have been some major pains that we've had to grow through over the years. So I'll go through each of these individually. But some team members just cannot break away from their work. And I believe this was mentioned in the previous block of talks as well, where there's HR, operations, finance. Like these groups can have a hard time just like stopping their work to jam on a project. This makes sense. And part of the major strength of jams is having everyone across departments participate. So it's important that people set aside the time to be able to participate in jams, because we want their unique perspective. So we countered this by planning jams dates a year in advance, so everyone could block out their calendars, everyone knows when they can participate, everything's good. But to also add to that, we encourage managers to speak with their employees and help them work on a shifted schedule, so maybe jam earlier in the quarter, or perhaps alternate participating in jams. That way there's at least some participation as opposed to none at all. Next up, remote employees have a hard time participating. So although our headquarters are in San Francisco, California, we do have remote offices in New Hampshire, in Bristol, and then remote employees scattered all over the world. And they felt left out, which totally makes sense. It could be hard for people to participate if they're not physically present in our headquarters office. So we created a conference room that was permanently dialed into a video call and dedicated it to these remote employees, so that physical employees could walk into the conference room and assist with any projects, help answer any questions, and more easily collaborate with them on an ad hoc basis. We also did our due diligence to ensure that all signups, pitch sessions, presentation sessions, they were all not only live streamed, but accessible and recorded for later viewing if time zones ended up being an issue. Voting. So I mentioned voting a few times earlier, and jams have become such a powerful lifeblood part of our culture that this one and the next one have really become the major sticking points and the major talking points for jams. So voting became a tricky issue because mentality of voting shifted over time. There was a very purposeful disconnect with innovation days between shipping projects and working on something you were passionate about. But as time went on and as jams projects inevitably became so enticing to include in the product that they were, and they were merged in and shipped, that line became blurred and both of those started to merge together. So expectations had been set. Jams have been shipped. How do we counter that? So to help counter that, which is part of the other slide that I'm going to be going to later, but for voting specifically, there was a lot of people working on projects that just weren't getting the love that they needed because everyone had that mentality of shippable projects. I want to vote for a shippable project. Why would I vote for anything else? We still want to support all the effort that went into personal betterment, learning. Door Jam would not have won if there was only one category to vote for, and clearly that was the favorite out of everyone here. So we created four new categories to vote on. Visionary, product fitting, internal, and fun. So the first two would really be looked at for, is this a shippable project? Is this something that we should plan for our roadmap moving forward? And the other two are just an easy way to recognize these projects that wouldn't necessarily fit into the product, but were still worth voting for and worth supporting. And then also, we streamlined the process around what projects made it into the product, which is the last and biggest point and the biggest challenge we've encountered with Jams. So with this, again, that expectation reached a fever pitch. Everyone was excited for building Jams that could potentially be brought into the product. So we improved the structure around vetting projects. So by skewing the voting a little bit so that those top two categories with product focus would get shifted over to the VPs for them to analyze, take a look at our roadmap, and see if they fit within our athlete needs. So that improved and streamlined the process. But another solution that we came up with was Strava Labs. So to help bridge the gap between those amazing projects and those amazing Jams and shipping into the product, we built Strava Labs, and this is a publicly viewable website. Anyone can go and check it out. It's at labs.strava.com. But anyone can go and see these projects that are like airtight, ready to ship, but they don't necessarily fit within the hierarchy of our product on the website or mobile app. Or they just don't fit the great majority of athlete needs that we're hoping to serve. They might be more niche than we were hoping for. But a lot of these are very data heavy. Flyby is a feature that's on Strava Labs. There's a ton of really great stuff in there, so I really encourage you to go and check it out and see some of these skunkworks R&D type of projects that we've added in there. So to summarize, this framework of Jams has had a great and positive impact on our work process. It encourages cross-collaboration and democratizes creative thinking. And we've had great success with it over the last 6 years. And here's some of those learnings. So first off, starting and keeping with a loose structure, keeping that squiggle when you're implementing Jams. Oh man, yay. We encourage people to make notes on things they wish they could work differently. That way, when the time comes, they're ready to hit the ground running and get started on a Jam. Next up, focus on the good. Strava has gained so many interesting features that we never would have dreamed of if we stuck with the ROI, the scalability, the roadmap. And by freeing ourselves to think of whatever we wanted to work on, we've been allowed to free ourselves of that and focus on some of the good that's been brought from it. Thinking small, then thinking big, which I think is the direct opposite of what Cindy talked about in her talk. But you know, I guess it's a case-by-case basis. It helped us that we started with half-day, full-day Jams process, keeping it very small, lightweight, bite-sized. And as we grew as a company, we eventually expanded Jams to meet that demand and meet the needs, to keep it interesting and keep it insightful for all of us. And lastly, taking action. And by taking action, I mean no project is too big, no project is too small. We've had a Jam all about just learning a new coding language or getting better at riding your bike aggressively on the roads of San Francisco. We've also had projects that have spanned multiple Jams. There's some that are on their 4th or 5th consecutive Jam where they just keep iterating and iterating and iterating. So no matter what the project is, if it's product focused or not, fun or something more intense, take action and try it regardless. And also, to wrap up, these shared ideas and everyone coming together from all these different disciplines from around the company have really helped unify our vision and given us a better look at what our mission and what our mission statement is internally. Because we can give our mission statement outwards to everyone else, but it can mean something entirely different to the employees of the company. So by seeing what everyone's really passionate and excited to work on, we get a different perspective on what that mission statement is, and it helps us open our eyes to something that we might not have considered before. So if you want to learn more about Jams, we have a Medium blog for Strava, specifically Strava Engineering. And one of our engineers has taken the time to write about this whole process in 2 separate articles. So I encourage you to check that out if you're interested in learning more. But I'm keen to hear from all of you, whether it's through the question app or afterwards. Please come chat with me. If your company has a similar process in place, how does it work? What successes have you encountered? And if any, what difficulties have you encountered as well? And how have you overcome them? I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. I'm really keen to chat with all of you about Strava, Jams, anything else that's on your mind. I put my Twitter handle, the Strava design team handle on here, as well as my athlete ID. I've actually been recording this entire talk on Strava right now, thus the pacing back and forth, just so I can see the spark line of how my heart has been racing the entire time. But thank you so much, all of you, for your time, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.